What's up, man? It is Brian, Alsruhe, NeverSay.com, and it is the middle of the night. Don't sleep well. So when you can't sleep, I figured the only logical thing to do would be to come into the gym and tape the Atlas Stone Series Part 2. We'll see how this turns out. You can find a link to Part 1 above, where we talk about very basic things like picking up the stone, when to breathe and brace, where to place your arms, and how to pick that thing up and put it over a bar. Now, in this very exciting second installment, we're gonna be talking about tacky, stone shouldering, and some assistance exercises that you can do if you do and do not have access to an Atlas stone. Let's go. All right, so first thing, this is tacky. Now tacky, I think originally started out as just tricep, but now it has turned into, you guys remember this from Ghostbusters? But now it has turned into this chemical compound, and all that it basically is a very, very, very sticky substance that you put on your hands, and it acts almost like the stones have handles. I can say without a doubt that this is the #1 game changer that I have ever experienced in my entire lifting career. A lot of people think using chalk on a barbell is a game changer. It's not. Tacky is. That said, before you decide to put tacky in your hands to do stones, realize that you're not gonna be doing anything with your hands for a while because you cannot touch anything else in the gym or else you're going to ruin it. Whatever clothes you have on are most likely going to be your new stone tacky clothes because you're never gonna be able to use those again for anything other than stones with tacky. Stuff is terrible. All you basically do is tear some of this out and then work it into your palms, into your fingers. Some people like to put it on their forearms. Some people like to stick it on their shirt so that the stone will stick better to their shirt. But again, remember, it is a lot easier to put on than it is to take off, and you'll be finding this forever afterwards. I personally like to use a substance called Goo Gone, and it's a spray that you use if you have a sticker on a wall and you know that residue is left behind. Well, there's a material made, a substance made that you can spray on that, and it will help break up whatever compounds that is so that you can take the rest of that residue off, and it will help you get the tacky off your hands. But it is terrible, and you'll be finding it for weeks afterwards. When you take showers, it will be in your hair, it will be in your beard, it will be all over the place, it will be in your car from when you drive home. Just have good etiquette, and if you have tacky in your hands, do not touch anything else in the gym because it will ruin it. Be a respectful person. But like I said, it will do a ton to help your stone game. It actually makes the stones feel like they have handles suddenly. Always check with the promoter before you go to a strongman competition to make sure that they're going to allow tacky, because more and more shows these days are not allowing it because it just ruins gyms. Whenever there's a tacky competition and people don't care about the place that they are going to be using the tacky, it gets on everything. And like I said, once it gets on something, it is very, very tough to get off. But if you are able to use tacky, I would definitely recommend it because it is an absolute game changer. Which is actually a really good segue into stone shouldering, which you see me working on here. Now, I like to use tacky on stones that are around 300 pounds and above, and you'll see me work up to a 350 pound stone to shoulder, which is actually a PR for me on this day, so I was pretty excited about it. A lot of people don't like to use tacky on stone to shoulder, and I would be one of them because as you roll that stone up to your shoulder, you ruin whatever shirt that you have on, and it has a tendency to get in your hair on the side of your head, and if tacky gets on your hair, tacky does not get out of your hair. You're gonna look like that kid in elementary school that had to get the gum cut out of his hair because he fell asleep with it in his mouth. Yeah. But I absolutely love stone shouldering. I think it is one of the best tests of overall strength and body coordination that you could possibly do with a heavy object. Anytime that you can pick up a big, round, smooth stone from the ground and use your entire body, you use every single muscle on a stone shoulder, but you pick that stone up from the ground, roll it all the way up to your shoulder, I think that's a pretty great test of overall strength. Like I said earlier, I worked up to 350 pounds, which is a PR for me, and I'm very, very happy about it because I've missed this stone a bunch of times. But you perform stone shouldering virtually the same exact way that you would over a bar. You just need a little bit more hip drive, and the angle of your arms needs to change a little bit. So you pick the stone up from the ground, and you get it into your lap in the exact same fashion that I laid out in part 1 of the stone series. Once it's there, you roll it out on your knees so that you can get a little higher in your chest, and then your arms crush around it. Now, when you're going over a bar, I think it's a little easier to go at the 10 and 2 position, but for stone shouldering, I actually like to bring my arms down a little bit more level around the sides, almost like it's gonna be the hemisphere because they're gonna need to transition to the bottom of the stone as you explode up. But once you have the stone where you want it on your chest, you're gonna crush as hard as you can, and then you are going to explode your hips like you were trying to throw this thing over the back of your head. Very much like in a clean or a snatch, if you do not explode with 100% of your effort all at once, you are not going to be able to carry the momentum through that sticking point like you see me doing here with this stone. If you're moving slowly whatsoever, the stone is not going to make it to your shoulder. So stone shouldering is my #1 assistance exercise for a stone loading event. I know a lot of people also like stone squats. That's basically where you just pick up the stone, get it to lat position, then you stand up like you're squatting it. Now, I personally do more of a hinge than a front squat with a stone, but I know a lot of people have gotten really good results from this because it does a ton to build up your posterior chain as well as your quads, which is going to become very, very important in something like a stone loading event. So you're probably going to want to do a little bit of that. Now, for all of you who are interested in doing a strongman competition that has a stone event, but you do not have access to an Atlas stone, what can you do to mimic a stone? Nothing. I'm just kidding, you can actually do some things, but I do have to say that nothing feels like an Atlas stone. No matter what you try to mimic it with, only an Atlas stone feels like an Atlas stone. But I would recommend you doing some other type of loading event like a keg load. Now, a keg has handles, so that is going to completely change the game, but your hip explosion and that hinge is going to closely mimic what you're going to be doing with a stone. All that I can say is that you're going to want to keep the weights heavier on the keg than the stones that you have to do in the competition, because a keg has handles and a stone doesn't. So that's gonna kind of make things a little bit different. So keg loads will definitely help you, and I think sandbag loads will help you even more because the sandbag does not have handles. Now, if you are gonna use a sandbag, I think it is very, very important for you to keep that thing as tightly packed as possible. If your sandbag is kind of like loose and you can get holds in there by bending and creating divots, that is not going to be as big of a carryover to a stone event as if that thing is tightly packed. So make sure whatever weight you make your sandbag, you just keep cinching that knot down so it's super, super tight. And then finally, this is an idea that Cal Beck came up with, and it is taking a loading pin. If you don't have a loading pin, find a cheap barbell that has a screw on the end, unscrew it and slide off the loading pin of a barbell, and then throw some plates on it, and then stick a tight collar on there. Once you do that, you have something that kind of resembles a stone, but you can get a feel for wrapping your arms around it and crush to your chest and kind of that hinge motion. This will definitely help, but I think the sandbag is probably a little better option than this if you have access to one. So if you don't have any stones, make sure you're doing some keg loads, some sandbag loads, some heavy weighted carries. Weighted carries are gonna do amazing things for all of your strongman events. And then that stone simulator, that should help you out if you do not have access to Atlas stones. And finally, if you do not have access to stones or kegs or sandbags, come on man, you can figure out the sandbag thing. Just go on Amazon and buy a $3 cheap military grade duffel bag, fill it with sand, now you have a sandbag. Get your life together. But let's go ahead and say that you do not have access to any of these things, but you do have a strongman contest coming up that has stones involved. What gym exercises can you do that will help have some good carryover to a stone loading event? #1 is gonna be a deadlift, more specifically the stiff-legged deadlift, because when you pick up a stone, you are in extreme deficit because you're picking it up all the way from the ground and your hips are high. You cannot squat a stone up. So it's more of a stiff-legged or Romanian deadlift than it is a regular deadlift. So I would really focus on that because hamstring strength is going to become super important when it comes to getting the stone from the ground to your lap. As far as hip explosion, I would highly recommend kettlebell swings because that same hinging motion is going to be the same exact thing that you are doing with a stone. Now you want to be as explosive as possible and you want your weights to be heavy. Now in this example, I'm using a little kettlebell, but I would encourage you to get as heavy as possible with this because a stone is not light. Yeah, stone's not light. But do your kettlebell swings and also do front squats. Now, me personally, some people like to front squat the stone up when they're loading it. I do not try to do that. I try to raise my hips and then hinge as much as possible. I want it to be a ballistic, dynamic movement because I'm not strong enough to just front squat that thing up. However, the muscles that you use in a front squat are gonna be very closely mimicking the muscles that you use in a stone load, like your upper back, your posterior chain, your quads, all of that is gonna matter. So if you can drive up your front squat numbers, hopefully it will transition over to your stone loading event. So if your gym does not have strongman equipment, #1, I'd tell you to find a better gym or start building your own strongman gym. And then #2, I would tell you to do stiff-legged deadlifts, kettlebell swings, and front squats that are gonna be massive. Now, the very last one that I wanna touch upon is something that I just got at the gym a couple weeks ago. You guys may have seen it in the So You Want to Open a Gym Part 1. that big cannonball looking thing that I was dragging across, making a little joke about being chained to this place. But doing pull-ups from that cannonball, as long as you do not link your hands over top, if you are truly just grabbing, it is going to build your crush grip. When you're holding onto a stone, you are literally squeezing as hard as possible inward. Some people like the idea of doing flies, but to be completely honest with you, a stone is much heavier than anything you're going to be using on a fly. So to be honest, doing flies probably isn't going to help that much. But if it does help you, then I would encourage you to do it, because I always encourage people to do the things that work best for them. We're all different and different things work for different people. I can say that flies haven't really worked for me, but maybe they'll work for you. All right, so there you guys go. Hopefully now you have a better idea of how to use tacky, and more importantly, how to get tacky off of you. You have an idea of how to take a stone from the floor and get it up to your shoulder, which looks completely awesome. And finally, you have some really good ideas of exercise that you can do. If you do not have access to any of this, you can still get some stuff done that will hopefully translate over to your Atlas stone loading event. And you got to hang out with me at 3 o'clock in the morning. What more could you ask for? Anyway, guys, I do really appreciate you watching. I will be back with you guys later in the week with another video, but until then, go out, do something amazing with your lives, keep working hard, be nice to each other, put some stones on your shoulders, people, and I'll catch up with you then.